The world is returning, and it's been a really long time, all the way back since the PS2 in the West, which is 19 years if you've been keeping track, discluding the recent remaster of Recode. But yes, I am talking about Dot Hack, and this next entry is going to be Dot Hack Z.E.R.O, Z.E.R.O, Z.E.R.O. So this is going to be self-published by CyberConnect 2, which are the original creators of the Dot Hack franchise, which is really interesting. They've been making a really, really big deal of this because it's been so long since the franchise came out, and they've been doing other things like Fuga Melodies of Steel or Naruto Shippuden or Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. They've been doing those kind of games. So when it came out on the table and it was like, hey, let's do a new Dot Hack game, they were like, give it to us. We're the original creators. We will treat it well. We will take it seriously. So they really, wanted that, and they got it, so which is great. I'm super excited. So this is going to be a new entry in the franchise, though I'm not quite sure, and I guess we're not quite sure where it's going to fit in. If I had to guess, I would say this is probably a sequel further along in the timeline, but it's really hard to say. We don't get too much in the trailer, and it's also possible that this could be a complete reboot. So I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. My money's on sequel, but don't know. We do get a few little clues in the trailer, though. For one, it says, "Good morning, the world," which if you have ever played a Dot Hack game or read any of the Dot Hack books or read any of the manga or watched the anime, if you've done anything, then you're probably aware that the world in Dot Hack is a online game. So basically, Dot Hack is kind of the predecessor to Sword Art Online, and I'll say it, Sword Art Online is a ripoff of Dot Hack. But basically, there's this game world. It's called The World. You go into it, you basically do whatever you want. It's kind of your traditional, kind of an older school MMO where there's no like real goals. You just kind of go and hang out. And then eventually the world gets shut down, and then they have the world R2, and then that gets shut down, and then you have the world RX. So there have been different iterations of it. But this connects in the real world where occasionally people in the game will go comatose in the real world, and sometimes they can remain in the game. So they continue to exist in the game, they continue playing, but in the real world, they're sitting in a hospital bed somewhere and they're trapped in the world. So a big part of the games in the anime is figuring out what's happening, why is it happening, what is the world, why is it doing the way it is, because if I remember correctly, in the original story, at one point, before the story even takes place, the entire internet got shut down and they had to rebuild it from scratch. And now there's kind of this weird mystical thing going on with this new internet. So it's all very good, all very fun. Definitely worth checking out some of the older material if you can. It goes way, way, way back. But yeah, so anyway, in the trailer, we can see what seems to be the main character. It's the most featured character, so I'm assuming it's the main character. They are a twin blade, which is very similar to Kite and Haseo in Dot Hack Roots. They are both twin blades as well, so it makes sense that we would have another game where the main character is a twin blade. Basically, it's just a rogue class, somebody who uses two daggers. But this one looks a little bit different. Their color scheme is very similar to Kite from the first game, kind of the orange and the whites and that sort of thing. Silhouette's not too different, but their overall aesthetic is a little more cyberpunk, whereas the older ones are a bit more medieval, patchwork clothing and whatnot. This one, they're wearing headphones, and so they look a little bit cyberpunk, which is a little bit different. So which is leading me to be thinking that this is a bit more in the future, so things are updated a little bit more. They seem to have another Twilight bracelet, which is a artifact in the game that allows you to do things like edit the game itself, edit the world itself, also put people in comas and trap them in the game. But this one seems to be possibly corrupted. So what does that mean for this person? Or do they have control over it? Do they not have control over it? Who knows? We're going to have to wait and find out. And speaking of classes, as that person looks to be a twin blade, we also see what appear to be a blade master and a heavy blade in some sort of spar or dueling together or some sort of fight. Not quite sure. So we see possibly 3 different characters that seem to be player characters in the game. We also see a mysterious girl in black who, if you've watched the original anime or played the original games, you might remember a character named Aura who looked fairly similar hair, similar color, similar hairstyle. Aura was usually depicted as wearing white or light pink. This person is wearing what seems to be like a black dress. So maybe it's like a corrupted version of Aura, or maybe another rogue AI based off Aura. We don't know. Aura was kind of supposed to be the ultimate AI who could do whatever she wanted in the game. Control. She was built to be like a goddess of the world, effectively. So that's kind of interesting. We also see a person in a hospital bed. So it looks like somebody's in a coma, which is par for course for this series. So it looks like it's going to be very similar to what's going on. And we see a computer screen that goes corrupted, and it says the program responsible for it is called twilight.exe, which, if you've played the original games, again, Twilight comes up quite often. The Kite in the original one had the bracelet of Twilight. That was the thing that allowed them to edit the world. There is an epic poem that exists in this world called the Epitaph of Twilight, which the game world is, the world is designed after. So this is a fictional epic poem. So that's called the Epitaph of Twilight. So the word Twilight comes up quite often when it involves this world, or involves things that edit the world or change the world. So to see that something is corrupting computers called twilight.exe is very telling. So we're going to have to wait and see what that is. Also, we see things like the social hub return. In the original games, one thing that was really interesting was it was a single player game designed to feel like a multiplayer game. And so what you would do is you would run around in the game, you would meet your friends, you would do your missions or whatever. But then what you could do is you could back out of the game, and then you'd have this kind of, it would look like a computer screen, it would be like a little hub. And you could go into social media, and then you could, post online, and then, you would read posts that other people were giving you. And this was how you kind of got lore on the world. And sometimes people might, you could browse some websites that were related to the game and whatnot. And you could, occasionally people would, you could look at forum posts, and people might say like, oh, hey, I found the secret dungeon. Here's the keyword to get in, and that sort of thing. So that was always really, really cool. We see these kind of forum posts, and we see them being blocked off one by one. So who knows if it looks like that feature might be returning, but there might be some corruption to it. So who knows? That's really interesting. And then the last thing that I noticed was we see what looks like Skaith's staff. So Skaith is this, it's kind of like a harbinger of the end of the world being the game world. So it's this kind of like death god thing. And when we see it, it often has this staff. It's just usually a long pink, staff with a circle at the end. Sometimes there's a crossbar to make a cross shape. We see that in the trailer, and it's covered in chains. So what does that mean? Is Skaith returning? Who knows? All very mysterious and interesting, but we don't have too much right now. So there's not a lot to go on at this point, but definitely check it out. Doc Hack is a franchise that I absolutely love. Ever since I saw the original anime back in, I don't even remember how old I was, a long time ago. Maybe 2000, I don't even know. I think it was in high school at the time. So it goes back a very, very long way. It's very cool. Definitely worth checking it out. No release date yet or anything like that, and we don't know what it's coming out on. But Recode, which was the remaster of Dot Hack Roots or Dot Hack GU, Dot Hack Roots was the TV show that went with GU. So Recode was the remaster of GU, and that was available on PlayStation, Switch, Xbox, and PC. So I would not be surprised if this is coming to everything. But they do say that they are building it with consoles in mind. So definitely check it out. Dot Hack Z.E.R.O.